Let's be real. Starting, running, and scaling a coaching business can feel exhausting. I mean, you've got the marketing, the hustling, the selling, all that stuff you didn't realize you would need to master when you decided to start a coaching business. For anything like me, you started your coaching business to change the world, to improve the lives of others while improving your own. Well, the truth is, running a business doesn't have to be as hard as many of us have made it out to seem. And you don't even have to do all that hustling stuff if you don't want to. You really can get into flow, into your zone of genius, and get back to the work you were sent here to do. But you have to ask for help. You have to be willing to work in new ways. You have to be willing to open up your mind to mentors who might be doing it differently than you've ever considered. And you have to be willing to actually implement new ways of thinking and running your business. If you're up for that, stay tuned. I'm Hannah Hermanson, your certified coach, international speaker, author, and yes, the founder of Dream Life is Real Life and the host of the show. And I've been able to help hundreds of coaches build, scale, and enjoy their online businesses. Essentially, make their dream life their real life. And if you'd like help improving your business life and get your coaching business to the next level, we might be able to help you. Head on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com/show to get all the resources and episodes that we talk about in this community. You can join our Facebook community, you can find me on Instagram, but more importantly, if you're really ready to integrate what you learn here today and on other episodes, then you'll be able to set up a complimentary 10-minute chat with my team. Again, at dreamlifeisreallife.com/show, no strings attached. We love getting to know you and seeing what are the right next moves for you. But now let's get on to the show. In this podcast, you'll find the real people, concrete tactics, and weekly motivation and inspiration to make your dream life and business real. I started this podcast to bring you the role models that I never had. We talk to successful entrepreneurs, freedom seekers, business owners, and people living life on their own terms. To be a true leader, to create the legacy you desire, and to live in alignment, you need a tribe lifting you up. And I've made it my mission to be your tribe, to bring them to your ears at least, because after all, we are all in this together. Now, let's cue the music. Hey everyone. Today, I get to hang out with a new friend, Kelsey Abbott. Kelsey is an intuitive human design reader, a certified professional coach, instigator of joy, and the host of the Find Your Awesome podcast. She helps spiritual adventurers remember who they are and why they're here so they can up-level with ease. She believes that the universe wants us to be sparkly AF and that joy is our natural state. I agree. When Kelsey isn't playing in her business, she's bringing curiosity, play, and joy to triathlons, a sport that she races as an elite amateur. Well, thank you for being here today, Kelsey.
Thanks for having me, Hannah. I'm so excited for this.
Same. I think we have a lot in common. We might be the same Enneagram type, perhaps.
If we're both sevens. I think we're also, I don't know, I don't meet many sevens.
Well, this will be exciting. We'll see how this works out, right? Amazing. So, I know you're an athlete, you're a coach, but I don't think you grew up dreaming of this or kind of knowing that this is what you wanted to be when you grew up. So tell us a little bit about your journey here.
No, I told my parents when I was little that I wanted to work with furry animals. And it's very specific and yet not specific at all. I did briefly wonder, I was curious about animal behavior. I went down that route. And then I thought, actually after college or in college, the college counselors were trying to help. And they were like, so do you want to go to med school? I was like, no. Do you want to go to law school? No. Do you want to work in finance? No. Oh, do you want to be a teacher? I
was an academic advisor, and that's exactly what I did. I was like, okay, so animals, biology. Do you like biology? Yes.
Yes.
We're all doing our best.
Well, eventually I was like, I don't know, maybe vet school. I did some vet internships. Turns out A lot of it I love. Euthanizing, no, I'm out for that. So I did kind of go towards furry animals and non-furry because I worked with a lot of marine animals. And then, so I was a marine biologist I went to graduate school in marine biology. Then I was a marine biologist for a couple of years. Then I moved to science writing. In other words, communicating science, taking the scientific papers and making them accessible and fun and funny for people. And then on the side, I was always teaching swimming, coaching swimming. And that evolved from just an offhand comment I made while coaching once about like why the 13-year-olds weren't doing flip turns all the time. That evolved into me teaching core strength classes, which then evolved into personal training, triathlon coaching. And then there was this moment my science writing gigs were getting a little less frequent. Contracts were getting pulled, funding was getting cut. And I saw a post on Facebook. A friend of mine was like, I'm finishing up my coach training program and I need to coach some people. Who wants it? It's interestingly enough, I did not reach out and say, I want to be coached. I reached out and was like, where are you getting training? What is this? It was the first time I'd heard of professional coaching. Mm-hmm. I was enrolled in her school 2 days later. Mm-hmm. And so then I was into professional coaching. And a few years later, I started my podcast, the Find Your Awesome podcast. Side note, I started it from a camper using Hotspot for Wi-Fi. So if you want to start a podcast and think you have reasons not to do it, I got every reason why you can do it. And while interviewing someone for the podcast, she said, have you heard of human design? And I kind of cocked my head in this like, huh? Like, what are you talking about? I had never heard of it. And it sounded sketchy. I was like, no, what's that? And she didn't explain it to me. Instead, she gave me the link to go look up my chart, which if you've ever seen a human design chart, I was like, what do I do with this? It was total nonsense, but I read that I was a manifesting generator. So I took that information and kind of poked around for months. And finally I learned manifesting generators are known as warrior Buddhas. And I was like, oh, that like resonated deep within. And that was like, oh, there's something here. So a couple months later, somebody said, oh, you're into human design. You must know Jenna Zoe. And I was like, no, don't know her. Started following her on Instagram, listening to every single podcast she'd done. It like basically created my own school by listening to her on podcasts and listening to everything I could find around human design. And then Jenna offered a training and I signed up to become a certified reader with her. And that's the very quick version of how I got here.
Yeah, I love the twists and turns. And something I tell all of my clients is that in order to succeed here in life is that you have to be decisive, because even if you make the wrong decision, at least you can learn from it and you can make a new decision. And what I'm hearing from you is that you were like decisive enough to be like, okay, I'm going to start this core workout. Okay, I'm going to start a podcast. Okay, I'm going to take this thing, and just being willing to say yes and to kind of roll with the punches, I think is so powerful. I was someone who thought I had my plan all laid out. Like I said, I was an academic advisor. You just like plan for every 4 years, you check the boxes, and then you're supposed to find success. And so I just wanted to underscore that, because I think your approach is really powerful, and being open to the twists and turns and saying yes, and then saying yes to something else perhaps. And I'm curious if in that journey you felt like you were on purpose, or if you felt like you were kind of just floating around, what it actually felt like in real time.
Yeah, that's such a good question. I felt like I was on purpose. And it wasn't until, it was after I'd moved on from personal training. Somebody like approached me about personal training, and I was like, I don't do that anymore. And I realized that in a way, that was the only thing I had done that people understood. People knew what a trainer was. And so, and I'm fit. So they understood like, oh, you have muscles, therefore you can help me get muscles.
Yeah.
And then I saw some people think I'm like really non-committal and flighty. And, while it may have been hundreds of people that thought that, I knew like 2 people that thought that. And I was like, okay, well, they can, go over there. And I know that I'm following the right path.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, one of the biggest things was actually, my nose is so itchy right now. I'm sorry. One of the things for me was when I was in coaching school, so I was still doing science rating, but as I said, funding was getting cut. And the truth is most of my income was coming in through triathlon coaching at the time. And I knew I was moving into professional coaching. And I went for a run from the hotel one morning. And I came back from running, and someone who worked at the hotel said, "Oh, are you a professional athlete?" I was like, "No, I'm a science writer." And I went back to my room, and I remember in the shower being like, "Well, that was really interesting." Like right now, being a triathlon coach is really like how you could define yourself, Kelsey. Like in science rating, you've got like 2 clients right now. The truth is, being a triathlon coach is kind of like being a professional athlete in a way. Like, it's closer to that. What was it that made you say you're a science writer? And I was like, well, I got my master's degree in marine biology. It's like, I've got that degree. I got to keep it legit.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting moment of like, oh, well, let's release that.
Yeah.
And just tell the truth.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. And again, this comes back to just making the decision. Like today, I'm a coach, and everyone I meet, that's how I introduce myself. Because if you're a manifestor, you know that what you speak about, you bring about. So let's talk about that commitment to being a coach, and how did what you had learned in human design, how did that map into your coaching as a business?
Yeah. So coaching, it's interesting. There was always a piece missing. Like I was always helping people remember who they are, but how do I show them who they are? And then human design comes in and is like, well, here's the blueprint that everybody's soul chooses a blueprint before they're born, that our souls choose what we're going to do and who we're going to be, and then chooses all the golden nuggets that are going to make us who we are. In other words, our soul sends us here with a toolkit, and then we see the whole thing in a blueprint. And so all of a sudden now I had this piece to show my clients. I feel like as they're talking about how they need to really buckle down and create these systems. And I'm like, no, you don't.
That's never going to work for you.
That is not your zone of genius. Please don't waste your energy in that.
Yeah.
Hire somebody if you feel like you need systems.
Yeah, we had another guest on the podcast, Serena Curran, and she talked about this and essentially gave us permission to stop fighting the hard things and stop questioning, why am I like this, and trying to change ourselves, right? Like, oh, I just, to be a business owner, this is a great example. I need more systems. I just have to stick to systems, and I have to be a better planner, and I have to be more organized. But then, she talked about how it's just like jamming your blueprint into like a garbage can because you throw out the essence of you. So I'm curious, and maybe we can talk through the types, or maybe we could think a little bit about how do we just embrace our quirks? Like, okay, I'm not a structured person, or I'm not a scheduler. And again, having that permission to operate in that way, I don't think it's something we have a blueprint for, because right now everyone wants to tell us how to do it, how to change, what worked for them, right?
Yes. So know that, I have so much to say to this, but the first thing is know that just because something worked for someone else, it has nothing to do with whether or not something worked for you. It's like when I call my parents, my dad loves to tell me what he ate that day. And so it's like my dad telling me he had salmon and broccoli for dinner. That's super. It has nothing to do with me. It's not what I'm eating. It's not what I've eaten in the last year. Like we're cool. So it's basically someone telling you that they built their email list by doing this. It's basically like them telling you that they had salmon and broccoli for dinner. Right before I discovered human design, I was working with a couple coaches who were really, in hindsight, and at the time, I did feel like it was bullying. Like, Kelsey, you got to get super specific. And one of the things I discovered in human design is we are either built for specifics or we're not built for specifics. And if we're not built for specifics and we try to get specific, it's like slamming on the brakes. It's like hardcore, like, eek, you lose your flow. Mm-hmm. And that for me gave me so much permission. Like, oh, okay, so my job is not to be specific. My job isn't to know what's next. It's instead being like, hey, universe, please bring me abundance for being my authentic self, which is what I want and have wanted my whole life. I remember back to applying for colleges, being like, can't I just be me? Can't they just come watch me be me instead of me trying to like answer these specific questions and write this essay, trying to be someone that they want and like fill all the boxes. So human design gives us permission to be who we always know we are. Yeah. And that person who we've always known we are it's never the same as like that cookie cutter person we're trying to do. Because here's the deal. The universe is not, or the earth is not covered with 7 billion separate humans. We are one human shattered into 7 billion separate pieces. And each piece is totally unique. And we need to own that uniqueness so that we can all fit together like puzzle pieces, and together we rise.
Yeah. And just like sleep better through the night too. I mean, I spent a lot of years trying to figure out, why am I this way? Why can't I do this? Why aren't I more that? How come I'll never be her or whatever? And any of these tools, I mentioned to you, I'm not really familiar with human design, but any tool, whether it's astrology or personality types or past life experiences that I've processed, anytime I have more data points that help me understand this, there's a reason why I am this unique, quirky, sometimes frustrating Hannah. And for me, it's helpful to have some of that knowledge base, because if everything is random, that's when I get anxious. So how can we identify, what our blueprint is, or start to get some of these data points for ourselves?
Yeah. First, I just want to say to that, learning my Myers-Briggs type is what gave me the courage and confidence to quit my big government job as a marine biologist. I looked around and was like, oh, they all like this. Like, they're all made for this.
Yes.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm out of here.
Great. Yes. They all like this. I can relate to that too. Like, looking around my cubicle, like, I used to think they were crazy that they were there for 30 years. Then I'm like, oh, but you love comfort and predictability and doing the same thing day in and day out. I shouldn't be in this room. I'm in the wrong room.
Exactly. I was like, I'm in a cage and I don't belong in a cage. That's what I need to know. So human design it's the easiest thing to find out, as long as you can find your birth time. So you just need to know your birth date, time, place. A few tips on finding the time, because this is what gets a lot of people stuck. Hopefully it's on your birth certificate, and hopefully you have access to your birth certificate. That's the easiest. If not, ask your mom. Check your baby book. At least in Pennsylvania, you can contact the Vital Records Department, because I've had 2 clients do this now. And I just learned that for Pennsylvania, don't do it online, because online they will send you the short version of your birth certificate, which won't have your time. So you have to actually like mail it in and include a note that says, I really need the birth time.
I know my exact birth time because I'm proud of it. It was Monday at 5:01 p.m. Like, I got through the Monday workday, and then I was like, all right, 5:01, let's do this thing.
That's amazing. I was one of those weirdos too that I don't know. My mom told me once that I was born at 12:28 p.m. and I always remembered that.
Yeah. My brother too is like 3:30, 4 a.m. She was on it. Maybe she knew that we were going to need to learn about ourselves. So, so once we know when we were born, where we were born, what next?
So you can get your chart for free from mybodygraph.com or jovianarchive.com, or you can head over to my website, kelseyabbott.com, and under the Play With Me tab, there's What is Human Design or New to Human Design. I can't remember exactly what it says, but click there and I'll take care of it for you.
Awesome. Great.
And
so
then
that gives us all sorts of confusing information. Right?
All sorts of confusing information in this picture of like this human profile. It's like a half person, half tent, with all these different colors and symbols all down the side, and there's lines, and the colors of the centers don't mean anything. I don't have any idea why they decided to make some green and some yellow and some brown and some red, but it doesn't mean anything. You'll get all that information. You will get the information on your energy type, which is either a generator, a manifesting generator, a manifestor, a projector, or a reflector. Your profile, which is the numbers, which like I'm a 4-6, you could be a 5-1, a 3-5. There's a whole bunch of different combinations. And then the rest is the super confusing bit that I can help you with.
Yeah.
You don't have to understand that. As one of my friends said, it's like alien. And I was like,
yeah, well, we all have our zone of genius. And like you said, that's what makes this whole life puzzle and 7 billion of us work together. But for some of those like manifestor, reflector types, could we talk a little bit about those? Because I think that might be a good starting point for people to start to see themselves or think about really moving forward with some of this data.
Yeah. So let's start with the reflectors. Reflectors are the least common. And they are reflectors. In other words, they are disco balls of awesomeness. They feel and amplify and reflect back the energy they feel around them. So if a reflector is surrounded by the people they're surrounded by and their actual physical environment, all impacts their energy. Reflector, like if you want to feel really good about yourself, hang out with a reflector. They're going to reflect your own wisdom right back to you. And you're going to be like, oh, you're so brilliant. And they are so brilliant. And so are you.
Yeah.
Reflectors are really the ones we want to check in on, especially in 2020. Like, how you doing? Because the whole environment impacts how they're showing up and how they're feeling. We want to keep our reflectors healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So reflectors, just remember, get in your own energy when you need to make a decision because you are filled with everyone else's energy. So go like kind of shower and give yourself an energetic shower and get everyone else's energy off you and be by yourself, which could also include sleeping by yourself. So you're not taking in somebody else's energy and make your decision from there.
Wow. See,
and give yourself a whole lot of space to make that decision as well.
Yeah. And this again, when you have the data point, all the things that it can impact in your life, just these little nuggets that you're sharing right now, I think anyone listening, whether you know your type or not, you can start to think about adjustments that you might make and tell me if this is totally off, but maybe you have a moment where you're more reflector-like. Can that happen? Or you're only one type always?
Well, we're all a little bit of all the types, and the type that you get labeled as is the most dominant type. Reflectors are everybody and nobody. And sometimes and everything and nothing. And sometimes, I know I have moments where it's like I have everything to say and nothing to say. And that's when I feel like I'm like, oh, totally in my reflector vibes right now.
Yeah. Amazing. All right.
So projectors are here to guide us. And projectors, they see things really clearly. In other words, they see us really clearly. They don't see themselves so clearly. And that is the lifelong mission of a projector, to be able to really truly see themselves. And when our projector sees themselves, then they light up like a lighthouse and everyone else sees them and comes to them and looks for their guidance. Projectors are like birds. They're hanging out on the branch. The rest of us are scrambling around on the ground. And the projector, like I said, sees it all. So the projector is watching calmly from their branch. And let's say there's a chipmunk running around. And the chipmunk is looking for its nuts that it's buried. And so the chipmunk looks up and is like, hey, projector, did you see where I put my nuts? And the projector's like, yeah, they're right over there. Thanks, projector. That's really nice of you. Now imagine that chipmunk is just running around looking for its nuts. And the projector's like, yo, chipmunk, they're over there. And the chipmunk is like, who are you? Shut up. I can find my own nuts. Projectors are supposed to wait for the invitation. when it comes time to guide somebody. And that's because we need to clear space to feel your wisdom, projectors. So in the second part of that example, the chipmunk was not ready for the chipmunk's or for the projector's guidance. So when the chipmunk asks the projector for the guidance, totally ready to receive it. So if you're a projector, before you guide somebody, wait for the invitation and or create the invitation, and know that people who follow you on social media, people who are on your email list, people who are your clients, they have already invited you.
Yeah. I was going to say, this sounds like a lot of coach types to me. The ones that have that wisdom and want to offer it eagerly, but sometimes it's misplaced.
Exactly. And the thing is, projectors, if you find yourself getting all judgy, then because you can see everything and you're like, yo, chipmunk, your nuts are over there, dumbass, then check yourself. And that is your sign that you're out of alignment. So what's missing? Oh, you didn't create the invitation first.
Yeah.
You didn't say like, chipmunk, I might be able to help. And then the chipmunk was like, oh, I didn't even see you up there.
Yeah.
Please help me.
And I love how you're talking about like the two sides to every coin. Like you can either be really wise and helpful or judgy. And I think, I mean, when we think about ourselves as humans, right? Like any of our strengths could be perceived as a weakness or a challenge in certain contexts. And again, it's about like owning it. Like, great, like that is you. And once you have the awareness, then hopefully you can choose the shiny side of the coin more often than the judgy side, perhaps.
Exactly. And that's actually a good segue into manifestors. Manifestors are here to be super powerful. Their aura is so big. A manifestor cannot sneak into a room. Everyone is going to feel the manifestor's entrance. So manifestors as kids probably got the message, you're too much. You're too big. You're too loud. You're just too like, shh, tone it down, shrink. And what manifestors need to know is actually you're here to be huge. You are so powerful. You are the one that starts movements. So manifestors, be brave enough to be really big and be brave enough to start movements. Your energy is huge. So people are going to feel it. Some people are going to be terrified of it. Don't worry about them. They're not your people. Some people will follow you. Just got to be brave enough to go ahead and get it done. And you take the first step. People will follow.
Back to owning it. I love that. And yeah, just so much permission in this. And it's interesting. Obviously, these are things that it was true of you in childhood, right? Yes. So you were born this way, you chose this blueprint. And so often when I'm working with people to find their mission statement or their life purpose, it's like, what has always been true? Like in third grade, you were this way. When you were 30, you were this way, because there are just certain things about us that I believe and you're teaching us are ingrained.
Yeah, we are born, the day we're born, we know exactly who we are. And then we start forgetting because people tell us, they either tell us with words or we interpret that we're supposed to be a certain way. Like generators. Generators are born knowing they're here to lift people up. And then when they're little, they get celebrated for sharing their favorite toy or cooperating or going and like hugging that aunt that they didn't really want to hug. And they get told they're good girls and good boys. And so they get this idea they're supposed to sacrifice themselves. And by sacrificing themselves, that's how they lift people up. They feel like only one of us can win. And I really want other people to win, so I'll sacrifice myself. And coaches, this can be in this silly little thing that we do in this online business world, which is scheduling like a group call for a time when it's best for your clients, but it ends up being 2 a.m. your time. No. Please don't do that, because your clients are attracted to you because you are super sparkly. And that juiciness, that magnetism, it makes you irresistible. When you are in your sparkle, you elevate the people around you. And that's what your clients want from you. They don't want you to sacrifice. The only thing they're going to get from that sacrifice is like, oh, sweet, the time was convenient. Yeah. But the call itself is not going to be filled with magic. But if you are at your juiciest and sparkliest, holy moly, you're going to change the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And this is probably to the, like, we all should be sparkly AF, right? And in our shine and in our sparkle, because and this idea of all of us being 7 billion puzzle pieces, like we have to fit together and like own our place and our greatness. So is this true just of the manifesting type or of all types?
That we're all supposed to be sparkly?
Yeah, like be like sticking to your shine and sparkle.
All of us are here to be sparkly. And for generators and manifesting generators, that's like our biggest gift to the world is our sparkle, our juice. This is how we elevate the world.
Yeah.
Not by sacrificing, not by shrinking, but by being really big. And manifesting generators, we're here to play. And what you were saying, Hannah, but like, what did you do as a little kid? I played. What did I love to do? What did I love to do when I was 30? Play. And then as I learn human design, what am I supposed to do? What am I here to do? Play. Manifesting generators are here to follow the joy. And we actually are supposed to like jump from thing to thing to thing to thing.
Yeah.
And that's, you heard my path. It was a lot of bouncing.
As you were talking, I was really resonating. So I went and jumped in and got my chart, and I am through and through manifesting generator. So to all of my family members who have watched me start 10 different businesses in the last 5 years, I was born this way, people.
You're here to, as MGs, we're here to do things that other people think are impossible and to do it with so much joy. There's a societal belief that we're supposed to put our nose to the grindstone and just get it done. That is, we're here to show, no, we're all here. This is a giant, like, bouncy castle, and we're just here to play.
I was recently talking to one of my childhood best friends. She's known me since second grade, and she has a sister that's a little bit older than us. And I was, again, giving my update of like, and we're doing this other crazy thing, and we're moving to Mexico, and the business is doing this great thing. And, she's used to hearing this from me, and she kind of laughed. And she's like, I was talking to my sister the other day who was thinking about you, Hannah. And she's like, maybe Hannah isn't the crazy one. Maybe we are supposed to just follow joy. And it was such this like tongue-in-cheek kind of comment coming from folks who probably don't have the same birth blueprint as I do, because they have really succeeded in like owning a home and having a family and staying in the same job for a long time. And it was just so interesting to me that our beliefs can be so wildly different that like it was a joke. Like it was a joke to follow joy. And I don't know, you tell me, is this a societal thing that has taught us that like you have to put your nose to the grind? Is this a blueprint thing? Is this a personality type? Or why do some of us really believe and follow joy while others think that they have to earn it?
That's conditioning.
Okay.
None of us are here to be miserable. We're actually all here for the joy. Every single one of us. And by following the joy, it's like we're going to be pulled up the mountain. The thing is, as you learn your design, it shows us how we are supposed to flow through life with ease. You don't have to be on the struggle bus.
Yeah.
We get this idea like life is hard and you're supposed to be on the struggle bus. We're all struggling. Well, guess what? There's another way. Yeah. In fact, generators and manifesting generators in particular, let go of the heavy and the hard. It is not for you. And this shows up in the simplest places. My assistant is a generator. So we use this all the time. Like I'll be like, that feels heavy and hard. How's that feel for you? And she's like, heavy and hard. I'm like, okay, not that way. Then pivot. We're not going to do this.
Yeah. The way Abraham talks about this is to get on the raft flowing downstream. So many of us get in a canoe with a paddle and we effort our way against the current, when if you just let go of it all, you would have a lovely downstream float. And I think that's another powerful visualization of, okay, does this project or does this decision feel like I'm going to need paddles and effort, or like, could I just let that go and see what's downstream? for me.
And we're like not just paddling up the stream. We've pulled a muscle and we're still paddling upstream the same way. Yeah, just turn around.
Yeah, the raft is breaking. And
yeah.
All right. Any other types? How many more do we have?
That was it. That was 5.
Okay. Amazing. So I think, obviously having some, the next step to really go get your type would be really powerful. But I think the big thing I'm hearing here is that when it feels like struggle or heavy, take pause, because nothing was designed to operate in struggle. Right. In this.
Yeah. That's really the universe being like, not this way. Yeah. And then as it gets harder, as you keep going that way, the universe is like, yo, not this way. Like I put down a barricade. Why'd you go around it?
Yeah. And I know people listening can see this in their business, right? When they've said, okay, I'm going to copy and paste what she told me to do, or I'm going to follow the system and just keep beating my head against this thing that's supposed to work. And the longer that you struggle, the longer you don't get results, the longer that it feels icky, obviously you're going to get burnt out. But I think instead of trying to figure out what you need to change, it sounds like it's about letting go and simply seeking what feels good, what's joyful.
Yes, just follow the joy. I can hear some people just being like, what kind of business plan is that? Well, it's an amazing one. It's a whole lot of fun. And isn't that actually the point of life?
And you can do what I did and like struggle for a few years, trying all the things and banging your head against the wall. But like, come on over to the other side. Like we're telling you the shortcut here. And of course there are things you have to do, right? You have to pick up pen to paper. You have to make phone calls. You have to do certain things. But I think if you are doing it with that underpinning of joy and excitement, you'll find yourself going further faster.
Yeah, ease does not mean sitting on the couch and doing nothing.
Right.
I use the example. I did my first 100-mile bike ride a few weeks ago, and it was 90 degrees, super hot. The last 10 miles, I wasn't having the best time. Like I was pretty excited to be done. I was looking at my computer, like kind of counting things down. And you know what? There also was no place I'd rather be. And so it wasn't easy, but it was filled with ease because I was powered by joy.
I love that. So powerful and really great reminders, whether it's hitting the bike, hitting the business sidewalk, or, even navigating some of your relationships, just, finding the joy. So Kelsey, where can people continue this conversation, get more in depth on their chart, and learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so come over to KelseyAbbott.com/human design, and that's where you can book a reading, and you can book an individual reading or a partner reading if you've got a business partner or a significant other or parent, child, any relationship you're in. It's so fun to see how you two work together. And then if you want to geek out on all things human design, check out the Find Your Awesome podcast. It's sprinkled since the start of 2020. There's a bunch of solo episodes, and pretty much human design is a little bit in every episode. So if you are a nerd like me and want to geek out and just like learn as much as possible through your ears, you can get a whole lot of
amazing. Paying it forward, just like you kind of built your own course with other folks' podcasts. I love that you're paying it forward now. Well, thank you all. Be sure to check out Kelsey Abbott for all things human design. Thank you so much. And I will be back next week with another inspiring guest that will help you make your dream life your real life.
That's right, friends. That'll do it for our show today. But remember, if you're really ready to implement and take these ideas into action, then hop on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com/show, and you can access all of the resources we talked about, and more importantly, set up a complimentary 10-minute phone call with my team so that we can help you get clarity and some concrete action steps in place, so this doesn't just become another one of those feel-good moments, but an opportunity to actually make a change in your life and business, because all good things come in action. So we'll see you over there at dreamlifeisreallife.com/show, and next week here on the show.